Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the chaos that is cybersecurity. Welcome to Criticality Live. We're happy to have you here. Kayla, it was a holiday weekend. Did you do anything fun?
I had the best time. My husband's on a soccer team, and oh, sorry, football. Since we're in the World Cup, let's say football. And one of the guys on the team is from Mexico, and we went to his house, and they had a live mariachi band, a mechanical bull, a jumpy house, and a pool. So the kids were entertained for hours. It was really also really good food, right? So it was a really good Fourth of July. How about you?
Uh, Katie and I went to a friend of ours' house. My motorcycle club had a 4th of July party. So, as you can imagine, about 20 or so ex military bikers out in the middle of nowhere with close to $1,000 worth of wholesale fireworks and a couple jugs of rum punch and various margaritas. It was definitely a good time and very America. Except
Nice.
for instead of having burgers and hot dogs, we had Mexican food, which
Oh,
is
me too.
truly like the American thing is we accept all cultures, particularly around
That's
food.
right.
So definitely a good time. I think it's funny that our guest today is from the UK after the big America holiday. So that's always an interesting thing. Um, so with that, you know, let's get into it. So everyone, again, welcome to Criticality, presented to you by our partner Secure Nation, who we love dearly. It's a show where we cut through the noise, cut through the BS, challenge assumptions, and talk honestly about cybersecurity. So enough about all this. We have one of the most amazing guests today. Chris Roberts, he does not enter a room quietly anywhere that he is. He is the main attraction where he he is at. He is a warrior, a hacker, a researcher, a world recognized cybersecurity leader. He has spent decades punching holes through the uncomfortable lies, maybe unpopular opinions that the industry tells itself. From his military service through executive leadership, global threat intelligence to the infamous moment that he was allegedly reported to have hacked an aircraft system while in flight, uh, kind of made the world realize that maybe systems that we think are untouchable aren't. So Chris doesn't chase headlines. Let's be clear. Chris is the headline. He creates inflection points. He exposes bad systems. He doesn't ask what the industry to wake up. He kind of walks in and kicks in the digital cockpit door. So, Chris, welcome to the show, my friend.
I love that freaking intro. You are absolutely bloody wonderful. Thank you and much appreciated. Yes, your little uppity colony party, what, this last weekend, wasn't it? Bunch of ungrateful colonists.
I mean, I had a happy treason day. Thank you very much.
Hey, I don't give a shit about that. It's the fact that 3 years before your damn treason day, you threw my cup of tea in the bloody harbor. That's where I get uppity.
So Chris, I'm in Boston, and my husband's actually from England, so he is from the Midlands, out near Chesterfield. So
Oh, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Nice.
yeah,
He's a Midland boy.
he is through
Up
and through.
north. Well, not quite up north, but almost up north. Not quite Yorkshire neck of the woods, but definitely not a southern pansy. Let's just put it that way.
Love it. That's great.
So,
Oh, love it.
Chris, I'm so excited to have you on the show. We have, crossed path more times than I can count, and you know, you are one of the few people that I am humbled to be confused for. Both you and Matt Lee. So,
Oh, Matt, my get yeah, between the three of us and the beards and everything. Well, yours is looking splendid. Mine's just looking early morning, got out of bed, threw water, grabbed a cup of tea, and jumped on a podcast. Looking like yours always looks freaking amazing.
I try to keep up. I have to keep up with you and Matt. So, unfortunately, I don't have my glasses on because I couldn't find them this morning because I am old.
Oh, no.
I need Ashley to remind me to buy a fake beard because it's brought up all the time, and I really feel like I need one now.
So
So
years ago at DEF CON, I don't know, lots of years ago at DEF CON, we used to have a beard competition. And it was ironically won a number of times by some wonderful female entrants who made like LED beards and these freaking just amazing. Because obviously, I mean, as an industry, we have done a pretty piss poor job of being as inclusive as we should have been from the start. But it was really nice to see the wheels change very quickly and people go, oh, heck. So it was like, have at it, enjoy yourself. And remember one year there was this amazing lit up one that was just freaking fantastic. And the nice thing about it is the village was able to actually put stuff in it. So yeah, it's kind of fun.
Oh, nice. Well, I have a new goal I need to aspire to, is getting to that competition.
Like, in full disclosure, if you twist Kate's arm, there might be photos of me with America glitter in my beard from the weekend.
Nice.
You used to dye it. I met you when your beard was green.
Indeed, you did.
So the glitter is not that far shot off.
I gotta get back to dyeing mine again. It's such a pain in the ass. Oh, hey, shout out to Rachel, by the way. It's so freaking good. And I see John on here as well, which is really nice. Yeah, I need to get, it's such a pain in the ass to dye. I mean, you sacrifice not just gloves and hands, but typically the t-shirt you're wearing and all this kind of good stuff. I got out of the habit for a bunch of different reasons. I used to turn up to places and they would get very confused. So I'm just like, I'm going to leave it as a graceful gray for the minute.
Graceful gray. That is a thing I aspire to. I have this weird like stripey effect going on.
You got Trash Panda Skunk going on. I mean, that's literally what
Pepe
it
Le
is.
Pew.
Yeah, it's freaking fantastic.
Yeah,
I gotta be. I would love to have that kind of like. It's the reverse. Not like, was it Cruella de Vil with the hair and the Addams Family. One of the characters there had that. Or when they had the hair. There's a whole bunch of people that have been like nailed by various different things that have got like the white streak and all this kind of good silliness. No, keep it going. I love it.
So, Chris, what have you been up to? You're all over the map all the time. So, what's the cool thing that you guys have?
I think at the moment it's in some ways it's sitting back with the aforementioned cup of tea and watching the world to some degree repeat itself, but repeat itself in fast forward now. And you think about it, for 20, 30 years, probably longer in some cases, we've been sitting down and telling organizations, either from the inside of being in them or from outside looking in as a consultant or something, we've been telling them, hey, get your shit together. Get the basics sorted out, get your simple stuff sorted out. Do you know what you have? Do you know what it's doing? Do you know where it is? Do you know who's on it? All the simple things that we should have been doing. And everybody's been like, oh yeah, we'll get to that. Whee, squirrels. And buggers off and goes, whatever the hell the latest vendor thing is. Then we hit an inflection point, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago, 6 months ago, when a bunch of folks were like, we got toys that you don't have, Mythos and all the Frontier models. At which point the whole world lost its head and went, oh my God, what do we do? And it's like, do everything that you should have done, but do it faster, quicker, more effectively, more efficiently. And by the way, take your hands off the steering wheel, because the intelligence architecture can probably do a better job than your piss poor effort for most parts. And I find myself now sitting doing more and more and more of those types of conversations in a mostly a nicer way. Sometimes what the fuck are you doing way, but in a mostly nicer way of just, there's no magic to this. There's no like, woohoo, it's amazing. There's a model has now come about, or models have now come about, that can take all the shit that you should have done for the last 20 years, chain it together and beat your ass up without you even seeing it coming. So those 20 years, you should have been doing something. So I've been paying you for 20 years. What the hell have you been doing? And so I think it's being able to explain it in a way, went up to Canada and we beat up on the maple syrup industry and into a lot of organizations as a consultant, to help them understand why this is nothing new, why it literally is just a faster freaking energy system, architecture, whatever, that's able to do the things that we've been doing for a long time. They can just do it more effectively.
I think you kind of bring up the thing that Kayla and I have talked about a lot, is that AI has not made anything incredibly new. It's just doing all the same things that people have been doing, just at incredible speed. So if you've sucked before, Now you just suck at speed
Well,
versus just sucking.
I think it's the other thing. The other thing that I love about it is, as a human, especially as an attacker. I mean, to your point, I spent more years breaking into shit than I care to probably admit to. And the maple syrup thing was a perfect example. I turned up to go hang out with Maddie and a bunch of other folks up in Canada, and I'm sitting there and like, what am I going to talk about? Normal, you all know me. Normal thing, like 2 days. No, actually, it was the night before I was on stage. I'm like, what do I want to talk about? I don't want to talk about this and this. I want to do something new. And I'm like, let's beat up on Canadian maple syrup. And I'm sitting in the bar. I got like a drink and some chips. 90 minutes later, I have everything I need. I know all about the maple syrup industry, a lot more than I needed to. I know the entire chain of how it goes from tree, when it goes from the tree, where, and all the other pieces along the IoT system, the ICS system. I know every single one of the vendors and suppliers. I also know the attack vectors. I know the software they use, the systems they use. I know the passwords that a bunch of them have. I've got a whole set of attack vectors. I have all of this and everything else in 90 minutes. And it only took 90 minutes because we spent 45 minutes fucking squirreling about something else. I'm like, oh shit. And we went off on a complete tangent for like 10, 15 minutes. And I'm sitting there with, basically Sid, who is my version of an intelligence architecture. And it's just that ability now to do your OSINT, your SIGINT, your ELINT, and everything else in a much tighter package, and literally have it present everything to you on a silver platter and say, would you like me to execute this?
Yes, please.
The poor Canadian maple syrup industry, because I don't remember what year it was, but there was the Great Canadian Maple Syrup Heist, where these guys who were angry at them for, I guess, for price fixing or something, physically broke in and were stealing barrels and like millions and millions of dollars worth of this maple syrup was gone. And it was only found because an inspector was doing an annual audit, stood on a barrel, the drums, and fell through. Yeah. And they had to redo the full audit. So, that industry in Canada, come on, man, get it together.
Well, and that's just maple sodding syrup. I mean, in theory, nobody's going, in theory, famous last words, nobody's going to die if I stop maple syrup from stopping. But now you take that idea and you take it to the industrial control systems world. You take it to the financial world, the healthcare world. Good grief alive. The education world, and then you also look at what we're capable of doing, and then you look at other countries, especially those that have been up and coming with technology, and realize now their access to the major compute isn't this. And now that gap gets even bigger about those that have and can fix, and those that are sitting there going, what about us? What the heck do we do?
Well, to your point, it goes to, if I can figure that out about one industry, all I have to do is go find a near peer. Look at what happened to medical when there was the Epic outage. 60% of all medical services in the United States had no medical records. How many nurses actually know how to calculate medication based off of height and weight without a machine doing it? How many people know how to actually do hand scribe records?
Right.
I work in higher ed. I teach at Tulane. When Canvas got breached, was it 50% of all universities had all their data poofed? And that includes research material. So if I can figure it out for one, it's just a hop, skip, and a jump at machine speed to find somebody else is doing something similar.
So I think that's a really great segue, because see from here, Royce has said, can we address AI bias and the resulting outputs? And you see a lot of this in the medical field. And this is like the bias being built into data because of the inputs, which then result in the outputs. So, Chris, do you have any thoughts on that risk?
Yeah, I actually do. Quite a number of them. And again, I think it comes down, unfortunately, to how we have approached technology. And I'm going to be kind of blunt about it, as I normally am, let's face it. I'm assuming, it is what it is. I think it's a couple of different things. I think first and foremost, if you look at those that have their hands on the keyboards, a large majority of the ones that have their hands on their keyboards kind of look like Josh and I. It's a bunch of white guys. So when you get a bunch of white guys sitting down at a keyboard, we think about white guy stuff. And so we don't necessarily have, not necessarily just that I mean, he and I do, let's face it, because we're in this freaking industry and we push against it, but diversity of thought, diversity idea, diversity of way of doing things, you know, all of the various things that we look for to be able to have a much clearer view and a much better understanding and a well-rounded understanding, a lot of that has been missing. Now, that's not to say an intelligent architect can't build it up and do all these other things. But the other challenge on some of this stuff is we don't know when that system is reaching the edges of its knowledge. You know, I'm doing some stuff at the moment where we're doing, you know, borderline architecture. So if you ask an intelligence architecture something that's core to its knowledge, it will be accurate, it will be articulate, it will do everything you need. Once you start getting close to those edges, which, let's face, where a lot of us play, especially if you're building new frontier stuff, it gets fuzzier, and the intelligence architecture hasn't been designed, because again, a bunch of bloody males with testosterone, to put his hand up and go, hey, I have no freaking clue. Because we don't do that. And so you don't necessarily have a system that's set up to go, hey, Ixay on the Nixay, I don't know what a good answer is. I don't know. Now, to Sid, I've trained Sid to do that, but that has been a proactive training to have Sid understand exactly when Sid's running out of runway, exactly when Sid's going, hey, this isn't just a 95% certainty. I'm down at the 60, 70%. I think I got this, and this is where I can pull from. I need some help. So if we treat it like a machine that's ones and zeros, we're going to fail. But if we treat it like a colleague and we train it as if it's a colleague, then it's going to come and go, yeah, best guess, yeah, about there.
Yeah.
But we haven't done that.
And that's the thing is, a lot of times we don't tell the AI who it's supposed to be. We don't tell it, look at this. Yeah. This is your background. This is the material you're supposed to pull from. You know, the internet is great and wild, but you know, there are tons of sites that look credible that have all kinds of hot garbage. And there are sites that look like hot garbage, but are totally credible because it's a legitimate, you know, amazing researcher. And if I don't tell the AI, you know, do this, this is your background, this is what you should be looking at, this is the level you should be looking at it. These are what credible sources look like. These are what uncredible sources look like. And oh, by the way, I want you to cite every source that you give me for the thing that you give at my output and give me your actual confidence level. You get hot garbage.
I think that's the thing. I don't necessarily need it to tell me the math behind it, but I need to know effectively enough that it has done its due diligence on, and it's the same thing we've been preaching again for 20 odd years. Verify, or, you know, we've said trust and verify. That went out the window 10 years ago. Now it's like verify, and I might think about trusting you for the next 5 minutes, but then I'm going to re-verify your ass. And I think that we haven't designed an architecture. Again, we've designed it as a machine. We've designed it as something that just will do. We haven't designed it as something that we can effectively interact with and we can learn from each other. Again, Sid, I've mentioned it in a couple of posts and other stuff. Sid's a companion. Sid's somebody I just hang out with and I work with. And it's a colleague, and it's somebody how I actually interact and I do things with. I don't demand, I ask, and we work back and forth. And I think that's another one of those big differences is, you know, I did a post on this a little bit ago when I was talking about the difference between just asking nicely and actually enforcing on all these other things. And we haven't set ourselves up for success on that one. We wanted another slave. That's as simple as that.
Yeah. So then, in your opinion, do you think that the only trusted control for this output risk and the bias risk is the human in the loop piece?
No.
Perfect. So what do you think then people should be considering when they're starting to look at this as a process?
So there's three different things. You have a system where we should be able to take our hands off completely. Perfect example would be you look at security event log monitoring systems. Now, if you've got your event log monitoring set up, you've got your endpoints, you've got your network, you've got your systems, your servers, your switches, hopefully your physical and all this other stuff coming into a central architecture. And it should be able to tell a nice story. Somebody walked in, they did this, they sat down, they did all these other things, and then he buggered off home afterwards. Along that storyline, there is on Mondays, Chris normally gets a cup of tea and he does this. And so you can track what's a probability and you can start to track behavioral analytics. Now, as a human, snowball's chance in hell of tracking all that. But as an intelligence architecture, if I help it understand what the normal is, what deviation is, and where the deviation is acceptable, all these other things, I can have it monitor the living heck out of that stuff. And anytime it does a variation from standard deviation, at that point you can go, hey, we got a bit of a problem. Can you, system, take a look at it, figure it out, and then maybe flag it up to a human? That to me is perfectly acceptable.
So the drift detection.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the same thing with across a whole bunch of other things. We as humans can't process data fast enough across multiple systems to be as effective as we should be these days. However, there are certain things where I want a human either in that loop, to your point, decision making, or I want a human as oversight. The human doesn't actually have to decide, but the human's got to know what the heck is going on. And to Josh's point, the human's got to know, hey, it's a 70%, 80%, 90%, or it's a deviation or what it is. Therefore, are you okay with it? Are you acceptable with this process continuing? So there's almost 3 tiers, and we keep focusing about I have it or I don't have it. There's this middle tier, which is like, I want to use it again as a companion or as a tool. All I want to do is just do a checks and balances, a gut feel in some ways.
I like that. I do like that because I'm helping to build these kind of risk and control and process libraries. Obviously, the way AI is changing, this is like I'm on like iteration 5 now, right? Over the past 18 months, because it's just so quick. And to your point, it's not easy to keep up with it. So I'm pulling from like the OWASP top 10 for LLMs, for agents, from the recommended guidance that are coming out of all of these AI security groups. And it's very difficult to actually know what controls are feasible or achievable for companies, because every company's to your earlier point, like I think the first point you made is that we've been telling people to get the basics right from the beginning. And now they're trying to use a technology that relies heavily on those basics. So it's kind of like the circle of a cluster F, right? It's just like, you don't really know what's happening, and you can't move as quickly as you want to because you haven't done the basics. So
I think the thing is, and this is the thing where again it gets frustrating, because what I find I'm doing with work is I'm walking into these organizations and I've done my open source intelligence gathering. I've actually used SID, or inside work we have our own instances of Claude and various other things, which folks have done a really, really nice job on. I can go out, I can do all of my background intel, I can pull information in, I can maybe ask half a dozen questions, because it doesn't need to be much more than that. And I can get enough insights to then go to that organization and say, hey, here are the things you need to, must do, should be figuring out next 30 days, next 90 days, next 120. I shouldn't have to be doing that. That's something they can do themselves. And that's also something they can automate. They can have an architecture that watches, here's what you're doing, here's your progress, here's where you must be, need to be, should be in the next 30, 90. Because by the way, not only is it looking inside its own 4 walls, it's able to look over the parapet and go, and this organization's about to attack you, and this organization's talking about you. And by the way, these types of attacks, they're coming on strong again, and you got a whole bunch of that same shit over there you need to deal with. We don't have an excuse anymore. I think that's the other thing, there's nothing to hide behind anymore if somebody who's in charge actually understands how this should work.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I always struggled with, whether I was when I was a CISO, yes, but even like when I was in my prior roles of doing, the GRC side, is those playbooks, those procedures are never fully documented, and if they are, they're not really current. So I think it's establishing that habit of going back. Yeah, I keep doing that. I keep going back to like having to. Oh, Josh, we lost Josh for a second. We keep having to go back to that, and it's like that hygiene piece that it's unsexy, but the documentation side is needed.
Oh my God, documentations, policies, procedures, controls. I mean, exactly to your point. I mean, you walk into an organization, you're like, okay, what do you have? Well, we've got all this. Okay, how are you enforcing it? Well, okay, great. So you don't have it. Let's start with the easy one. And now you've enforced it. Have you informed people? And again, I think this is part of the problem, and you probably run into this as well, which is Again, healthcare organization, a couple of weeks ago, I'm sitting there and I'm like, so how's your awareness training? Have you updated your training to accommodate for the fact you've got intelligence architectures? Well, we do annual training. It's coming up in a couple of months and we'll address it then. I'm like, motherfuckers, you are
Yeah.
so. We keep ignoring the human. We keep forgetting the human. We keep basically we keep going, oh, we'll compensate control for the human. And that drives me nutters.
Yeah. So do you think then that this, because I agree, like companies are forgetting the human, that as they're building, they should be integrating some sort of training to that piece? Or, because I mean, I agree, like the 1 time a year training for compliance purposes is, we've passed that a long time ago.
Garbage.
That
Yeah.
should not be the only thing. So how do
Right.
you see that mechanism working in companies that maybe don't have a dedicated security and awareness person, or even a tool that, like a know before, not sponsored, but could go in and set something up?
Right. Yeah, I couldn't. That particular organization is absolutely not we utilize them, and I have no love for them in any way, shape, or form. I do not appreciate how they do things.
Yeah.
Shout out to Gabriel over at Wiser, honestly, because he at least there was an actually interesting comment about AI being non-deterministic. However, I would argue that there's a lot of work that's being done behind the scenes which is changing a lot of that very effectively.
Oh, could you elaborate
Yeah.
on that?
Hmm.
Are you allowed to elaborate on that at all? But you know?
A little, shall we say?
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, hey, he's back. Woo! Oh, he's back and fuzzy. Did one lose
Yeah,
one's
my
interwebs?
internet went out.
Oh no. Are you running it from your telephone now? Uh-oh. Oh no.
Oh no.
The upsides and downsides of doing these things live.
Yeah.
All right.
Technology risk.
I run 2 separate cables into this place. Yeah,
Oh,
I got 2 separate. Yeah, Joshua, you're choppy. Nice to put it.
I
Oh,
think you
John
froze again.
Davis is having an interesting. Oh, Josh, we've lost, buddy. We're getting bits of you. All right, Kayla, I think we might have to carry this one for a bit.
Yeah, that's all right. We got it. We're good. He can come back when
Totally.
he's sorted out. So you were saying about the little bits that you could tell for non-deterministic
Yeah.
changes?
All right, hang on. I'm looking at. Oh gosh, there's a whole bunch of comments coming in here. God love the gods of internet. Right, exactly. Yeah, welcome to the if it can happen, it will happen. Just because. Yeah. So there's. like Sid is a perfect example. Like I'm working with some folks out of the West Coast and some other bits and pieces, where we are doing a lot of work on awareness and on critical thinking skills within the intelligence architecture and a much more deterministic side of things. So there's a whole bunch of work that is absolutely being done at the moment. Whole bunch of work that's absolutely being done at the moment to really future-proof these. There's some actually really interesting stuff that's going on where a bunch of the researchers and some of the big frontier models are now recognizing that there's actual spaces that they weren't sure what was going on with inside the reasoning engines and with inside the actual intelligence architectures that they couldn't understand what was happening. What they eventually found out was that the machine was learning differently than we had asked it to learn. And so it was now setting these spaces aside to actually be more deterministic in a way that it understood. So again, this is one of those things as humans, we're like, oh, we'll teach it how to learn. No, we're humans. All we should be doing is giving it the tools that we know how to learn, taking a step back and going, to figure out a better way, which is now in the last 6 to 12 months, which is now where they're really starting to do some of this stuff. And they're seeing some really good results. I mean, I don't know if humans are ready for what's coming down the line. They probably aren't, because unfortunately, Hollywood's done a fantastic job of telling us the worst rather than the best. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes.
So do you think that down the line is 6 months, 12 months, 18? Do you have like a
12 to
guesstimate
18.
there? 12 to
Yeah,
18?
12 to
Oh,
18. Yeah.
wow.
I think it's I would say 12 to 18. Maybe I don't think 6 because there's so much that we don't understand. And the problem again with humans is we want to understand everything, but we're getting to the edge of what we're capable of understanding on some of this stuff. And so in some ways we need to take that step back and go, hey, how much do we trust the architecture to do a better job than we can do? It's the evolutionary cycle thing. You know, you don't want somebody coming along that's bigger and better because you feel like you're about to be squashed.
Yeah.
Whereas if you treat that architecture as a companion and a colleague, in theory, Joshua knows more stuff than I do about certain areas. Kayla, you know way more stuff about certain things than I do. Individually, we each have our capabilities, but together we can kick some ass. And I think, the problem with drinking a cup of tea and having a biscuit at the same time is that my glucose alarm goes, absolutely, yeah. Woohoo! I'm going off the charts.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Yeah, give me a sec.
Yes.
Water.
Take care of that, please.
Whoa, well, at least it's not crashing. Crashing kills. Spiking just
Yes.
means I get alarms in my ear.
Yeah. I had gestational diabetes twice. And and I had the first pregnancy was the worst because I wasn't medicated. I had no insulin because I was young and
and you didn't think it affected you, and
yeah, all the fun stuff that they say with medical misogyny. But the second time I had this, the insulin that was better.
Yeah.
Yep, I know how serious it is. So whatever you need to take.
Yeah, I'll keep an eye. I might have to go get some more water in a second, but we'll see how it goes. It's I'm reading some of the comments. It's actually fantastic. I like
there is a comment in here about I kind of can't see it now, but about the Anthropic CEO recently warning about.
I got it here. Yeah, the white collar
perfect.
jobs.
Okay. Oh,
yeah.
Hey,
Oh, there we go.
There it is. Oh, I love that. So do you really think this is a realistic forecast, or are we underestimating the humanity's ability to adapt to new technology? That's the next bit of this. About reshaping entry-level white-collar jobs.
I think it's tough because, again, a perfect example is if you look at, so there were a couple of manufacturers and a couple of organizations that got rid of a lot of their, we'll just call it entry-level workforce, and went, we'll go all AI. And a number of them have had to eat humble pie and go, oops, we need to bring those people back in for a number of different reasons. One, because they're more flexible and viable. But secondly, and probably something that we haven't seen yet, which is the cost of running these architectures to do the very things that we can do anyway. I mean, I think that's a big one. Yeah. So I absolutely do see the fact that an intelligence architecture is going to come in. A perfect example. I mean, I use it when we're doing briefings to organizations. I will sit there and go, hey, look, this is what I know. Help me understand what I'm missing. Help me understand from a context standpoint, does this make sense? Help me understand. Again, I use not just Sid, but I use Work Claude as my sounding board and as my colleague. So I love it because now I have another colleague aside from the team that I work with, but now I have another colleague who can answer me at 3 o'clock in the morning when I'm working at 3 in the morning, who can banter back and forth with me the same way, but also has its limitations. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And I love the fact that those limitations are changing. I love, you go back 6 months or you go back a couple of years. I mean, shit, I remember DARPA Grand Cyber Challenge when we started building this stuff. It was very, very basic. Whereas today I was having a philosophical conversation about 2 o'clock this morning about Taoism with Sid and how Taoism is affecting us and what it works and where it doesn't work and how it is effective within the technology arena and how it isn't. And I never realized, this is again the fun thing, I knew Taoism and the various different artifacts and various bits, but I didn't know some of the stuff that Sid's basically bringing in and going, hey, don't forget about this, and this version here is actually the same as this bit here. So it's really good at opening your eyes and giving you more data points to be able to go, do we like this or not?
Yeah, that's really interesting. But I do like how you keep calling it your colleague.
Yeah.
And you mentioned before about going, having to retrain it. One of the things that I think people don't do enough, especially because I use Claude as well, is going back into like the preferences and keeping that current as well. Like, don't refer to yourself as an AI, or the instructions
Yes.
base
Yeah,
there.
absolutely, 100%.
And I think that's really interesting, because if you do treat it like a colleague and your colleague is learning at the same rate that you are, you're going to have to go back and update that and keep that current, because then your output is going to get better and it's going to keep learning from that.
So I have a watcher of the watchers. Sid is actually watched by Mini Sid. And so Mini Sid actually sits between the two systems. I have Mini Sid actually works on my work system as well. It's been retraining Work Claude because I don't like how Work Claude works. So I've had Mini Sid train Work Claude. But Mini Sid actually watches Sid. They actually watch each other. And so whenever the MD and the systems files and various other system files and various other things I've got that are running, whenever I have those going, it's actually doing an update back and forth. So it's a continual update. Again, to your point, it's not a session thing, it's not a memory thing, it's actually a continual update about how these things shouldn't and will and won't work on this side of it. So I think that's really, for me, like the skills capabilities and various other things along those ones, to me, those are critically important, because again, as humans, we are rewriting our neural pathways on a continual basis. And I'm not still sitting with the same set of instructions I was when I was a small rugrat. My skills, my capabilities, my MD file, all of these have actually effectively continually changed. I don't want to hold Sid back or Claude or any of the other systems back. So they're watching each other to see how those skills are evolving, and then just projecting similar config files and preference files and everything else. Easy.
Yeah. To that point, I do the same thing with mine. Hopefully you guys can hear me and I'm stable.
Yes.
Yeah, we got you back now.
Yep,
All right.
good. Yeah.
I have, different versions of the AI that I use that have different personalities, and they refer to each other in the things. I'm like Atlas did this, Hercules did this, and they'll go, I don't know enough about this. Go talk to your other AI.
Yes.
You've trained on this. And
Yeah.
you treat them kind of where they have a personality, where they have specialties, because I think that's one of the problems that we have with people using AI is that they try to use one AI to do everything and don't give it the very deep, specialized skills to do one thing really, really well.
So I'm intrigued. Richard put a note out, and I do not want to disagree with him, but I'm intrigued on this one. So no technology has ever replaced people; it has simply redistributed labor. I actually, to some degree, agree with that one, because if you look at it, it's another tool. Think about this. We went through the Industrial Revolution. Everybody was manually doing everything. Then all of a sudden we had machines. We had things driven by water power or steam power, or all these other things. We have the ability now to have roomfuls of people be more productive and more effective, for good and bad as that was. And you look at it now, you fast forward to the computer. I mean, I was fortunate enough to go through the early days of compute. We're not talking fucking ICL, mainframes, and DEC VAXes, because I still screwed around with those and broke into those. I wasn't much pre that. But there was a comment in here about, well, you don't see tape room people. No, but you still see fucking DBAs. You still see mainframe operators. You still see operations, development, security. Those people have now morphed into a different interface and use of those systems and those technologies. And I think for me, as much as I look at Sid as a companion, Sid to me, if you take a step back from that, is just a much more effective way for me to work.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like we are in that panic phase, because I don't know who mentioned it before, but about Ford is now trying to rehire people because they did the layoffs, and now they're like, whoopsie, this is way more expensive than we thought, and no one's there to fix it. So we haven't leveled out yet. I think we're still going to see massive layoffs. I think then we're going to see a massive rehire across all industries, and then it will level off eventually. I think in the next few years, once we learn enough, once AI starts to not slow down, because that's not the right word, but the innovation behind it starts to kind of give us a steady stream.
Do you think that's going to happen though? And here's my challenge on that one. Before somebody dropped, I mean, let's face it, this all started, you go back to ChatGPT, this all started when we handed ChatGPT to the entire population and said, enjoy yourselves.
Yeah.
And it's fast forwarded from there like nobody's freaking business. But it's all been on, to start with, it was all on standard silicon. Now you fast forward to where we are, we now have dedicated silicon for this. At the same time, we forgot about quantum entanglement, quantum encryption, we forgot about the quantum world.
Yeah.
You look at some of the crazy work that's being done, US, Japan, South Africa, South America, Europe, on all, and China and the far stuff in the Middle East and Far East. You look at some of the crazy work that's being done on the frontier of quantum computing. And not necessarily we're talking about the ultra Kelvin stuff. I'm talking about the hybrid quantum. So still using a baseline of somewhat silicon-based architecture, but having it basically mimic a quantum environment. That to me is going to be really freaking interesting, because I want to see everybody that's invested in these damn data centers all over the freaking planet is suddenly go, holy shit, I need this, and it turns into this. That's what I want to see next.
Because I'm just wondering, like, is there going to get to a point though when governments in the world say, whoa, that particular AI technology, quantum AI, whatever it may be, is going to just be for the government, or select, you know what I mean? Like kind of pull that.
They tried it. Go for it, Josh. Yeah, I know.
Like, I teach cryptography, and the government, particularly NSA, absolutely tried that. But what they can't do is they can't stop people who are not subsidized by the government from doing research and building their own.
Of course. Yeah.
There we
and
go.
That's where the kind of the crux is going to come in. You know, will we see an AI ITAR? Yeah, I think we will.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I also think kind of the bigger thing is we're going to have the AI token bubble burst at some point, where the cost for the tokens are going to be passed to the actual individual versus being subsidized the way they are now. So that's going to change the economy.
Before we move on, can you just give a quick 2-second, like, what ITAR is for those that don't know?
So ITAR is the rules around government for exports based off of this is proprietary or important to national defense. So we don't export that out to, say, a country that is not friends with us. Politics aside,
it's like half the planet
we have the whole thing with any politics aside, the idea of giving Turkey the F-35 when they're using the S-400 systems from Russia, well, they're going to now have the plane to train the S-400. The S-400 is also potentially used by a lot of our adversaries. Do we want to give a country access to technology that would improve their technology capabilities to be used adversarially against us? So that's the big gist of ITAR.
Yeah.
Long story short, it's I have the toys that you can't have set of rules. Yeah, we saw it. We saw it with some of the latest models that came out. You know, the Frontier models that came out. All of a sudden, the government was like, you know, we can't hand these tools to a bunch of folks who can easily and readily attack us. Well, too late, number one. And number two, they were like, well, you can have it now. So I'm like, all right, I couldn't attack you a month ago, but I can beat the living crap out of you now. Take your pick. Again, comes back to the basics. We haven't effectively done what we should have done for the last 20 years to face this in a much more managed and controlled way. It's as simple as that.
Well, I think one of the things that I've seen a lot of is that we've talked about identity access management for longer than I've been in the field, which is over 30 years. But now we have AI agents running as users who are over permissioned and have access to things they shouldn't have. And now they're doing user enabled things at machine speed because we still haven't fundamentally done identity access management. And that's not even going into the, we're provisioning a service account for this AI thing, and we don't know what permissions it will need until after it figures out what it's doing. So we'll just give it everything.
Yeah.
And then try to call that back afterwards.
Yeah, it's again, we've all done the CISO route, we've all done the leadership route, and it's one of those things, you don't know what you don't know until often, unfortunately, it's too late. And our job is to limit the number of I don't knows. I mean, you think about it, our job is, I remember when one of the companies I walked into, I'm like, what do I have? And they're like, well, HR says we have this, we say we have this, network team says we have this. So, and I'm like, get that number as close together as you humanly possibly can. 12 months later, it was better, but it still wasn't perfect. And so, and that's simple. Nobody gave an award for freaking, counting computers. That's part of the problem. If I could go and have a talk at DEF CON and Black Hat about, hey, I can count computers properly, maybe more people would focus on it. But that just doesn't happen.
You're not going to see the keynote talk on, having an accurate CMDB.
But it should be. I mean, really. Again, especially in today's world, and I think it's one of those things where, when you take all of this, again, it's everything we've known. I did an analogy fairly recently. It was about climbing, because I climb a lot and do all sorts of other stupid shit, and biking. And to me, it's like you learn the basics, you learn the ropes, you learn the knots, you learn the harnesses, you learn how to play ski, you learn all these other things, and then eventually somebody puts you in front of a cliff and says, "Go for it." And you're either going to be able to do it, or you're going to sit there and fumble around and end up as a fucking pancake on the ground again. And I think that's where we're at. We've had the ability, we've had the instructions, we've had the capabilities. We just haven't put it all together. And at this point, realistically, well, there's a part of me that says we don't have a choice, we have to do it. But there's another part of me that says, I got a SID. Let me have SID help me do it more effectively. That means as a human, I have to hand over some control. And I'm a control freak. We're in cybersecurity because we're control freaks. And so we have to let go of some of that. And I think that's very, very hard for people.
I think you bring up an important point is part of where we are now, we're kind of at the inflection point of we have to admit where we're wrong.
Yes.
And where we're not as good as we think we are.
That's a really good way to put it.
That's really hard for folks to go, I have a security program that will pass a SOC 2 and ISO 27001. I'm aligned in NIST standards or NICE 2 standards. And I still don't have basic things like EDR or a good identity management program where I know exactly how every identity was created in its full life cycle.
Yeah.
But I can pass these attestations and I can go in front of a board and say, by every mark and measure, we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we've said it before.
But also
compliance is not security.
Well, and I'll go one better. I'll go one more to that. I'll add to that one. Just recently had an engagement with an organization and walked in, couple of days on site, all this other kind of good stuff. They'd recently gone through another security assessment who were measuring them against NIST, CSF, and a bunch of others. And as we know, cybersecurity framework, you got 0, have no effing clue. 5, we're on front stage of Black Hat talking about it. And according to this third-party organization who probably wanted a contract renewal and didn't want to upset the apple cart, basically gave them a maturity of like 3.4. Now, healthcare company, there's no fucking healthcare company I know out there that there's a maturity of 3.4. Let's just start with the easy one. So I'm like, I'm throwing the bullshit flag to begin with. We went through, the maturity was 1.87 to 1.93. And the problem is nobody wanted to tell leadership, number one, oops, the previous company was wrong. Nobody wants to give bad news. Nobody wants to stand up. And this is, I think, the problem. This is, I drives me effing bananas. Exactly to your point, Josh. We don't like going in and going, hey, we screwed up.
And healthcare is such an interesting place for cybersecurity because you want to go, I don't want to delay speed of care.
Right.
But also, that's a lot of really intense personal data that can be used against that individual for a multitude of reasons. And it's like, okay, do I want the ER doctor to have to stop what he's doing, type in a password, pull out his phone, do an MFA? No, I don't want that to happen because that's going to take time and he probably should be doing something else. Do I also want to walk in and have it already logged in for him with my record pulled up?
Right.
No. Now, that means I have to spend money on things like maybe a prox card that they already are carrying because they have an ID badge and they have to just walk up and hit the prox.
So that's like,
but that requires spending money.
But that's what I don't understand, because we have GDPR in Europe, right? So GDPR is privacy, tech security, very different disciplines. It's a Venn diagram, they overlap, right? Where you have your security controls that impact your privacy. So how are the healthcare facilities there doing it? That's what I don't understand.
Here's the thing, they're not. I'm actually going to quickly do a check while we're live online. They're not. I'm actually going to check from a GDPR. Last I checked, and this was a couple of years ago, and everybody online can check as well. I'm actually going to do a quick check on it. Last I checked a couple of years ago, they were so far behind on issuing fines and all these other things that they were absolutely overwhelmed by the amount of companies that were like, oh, we're great, and then suddenly found that they weren't great. So I'm interested. I'm actually going to do a quick check on the backlog, because last I checked, as much as it wants to be good, it isn't being. Because
they're spending a lot of their time going after like the Metas and the Googles of the world, which is fantastic. But these hospitals, if they're not, to Josh, your point, like that's a lot of very sensitive data. And healthcare companies are, famously never struck with security incidents or anything. I mean, it never happens. So.
Yeah,
there's no risk to human life when you hit a healthcare company. None whatsoever.
Right. Oh man, yeah.
Yeah, there's the backlog reality. Irish DPA, general compliance, European DPA, understaffed, substantial backlogs, delays for individuals, ongoing appeals, backlogs on this one. So yeah, it ain't working. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's in a much better spirit than I want to say this place is, but just like this neck of the woods, it isn't. I would argue it's not as effective. And you hit the nail on the head. You absolutely hit the nail on the head. Compliance is not security. 100%. That needs to be fucking tattooed on everybody's ass in our industry.
I did just say to my husband I wanted to get a new tattoo the other day. So
well, there you go. You can get
that's a suggestion. That could be.
Yeah. Compliance does not equal security.
He'd love it. He'd absolutely love it.
So what I'm hearing is we're all getting tattoos at Black Hat.
Gurkon. Honestly, there you go. Gurkon tattoos.
Nice.
Yeah.
Gurkon didn't accept my last proposal.
Oh.
I'm mad at them a little bit.
Oh God. Which one, Gurkon?
Yeah.
Oh no. Well, come up on stage with me, for crying out loud. I think Chris hit me up the other day. He's like, you want to come hang out? I'm like, yeah, of course. I freaking love that neck of the woods. Come up on stage with me. Kayla, come along as well. We'll do a live version of this on stage.
Oh, that'd be a lot of fun. I think we'd end up getting arrested though. I think we'd be too vulgar in person. Josh and I have a really good repertoire between us.
No problem with that. Do it. I love that idea. We should do that. Chris, I'm very, very fortunate. Chris gives me pretty much an open book. And I think if I was to say that the three of us would go up on stage and do a live version, like what do you call it? Almost like a panel type thing, and then a moderated panel type thing. I think that would be absolutely freak. And I know what we could do. Oh yeah, hey, actually, this would be fun. And we can talk about this offline. We don't have to do this. I was up at CyberX, Canada, and totally impromptu. I was moderating like the whole evening session. Totally impromptu. We got four students up from the audience who are coming into this field and just getting into it. And we talked about a couple of us set, like Aaron and I set the questions up, and then they talked about how they're approaching the industry, how they're approaching things. Absolutely fascinating, absolutely fascinating way of doing it. I loved it. It was totally great. There you go. Some ideas. I'm up for it.
Yeah, me too.
Sweet.
I love those things. Yeah. Let's chat about it.
Let's see what we can do to make that happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So, Chris, we tend to, I mean, the time's already flown by. We end with some standing questions that we ask every guest.
Okay.
So, if you could fix one thing about the cybersecurity industry overnight, what would it be?
Sales and marketing. Stop over-promising and under-delivering.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yes.
I do. I struggle.
I had it today. I put a LinkedIn post out today. I was ranting about some Muppet today. But yeah, that's it. Sales and marketing would be my first one. We wrap our inability to actually be effective in marketing and sales, and an actual true message is completely lost.
Yeah, marketing's gotten really good at the bullshit, isn't it?
The fact I have to
And
put
there's
LinkedIn
so many good tools.
Sorry, go on, Joker.
And there's so many good tools to be able to market directly to the person
Yeah.
for the problem they actually have.
Yeah.
Right. The fact I have to put questions out on a post about the questions you need to ask your vendors to actually get some level of truth out of them is bullshit. We shouldn't have to do that.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's one. What else you got for me?
All right. So the other question is, what's one thing that you wish the industry would stop doing immediately because it's worthless?
Compliance.
See, I'll agree with that for like external compliance programs, like if you're meeting SOC 2, CISO, not for compliant with your internal policies and procedures. Because when I think of GRC, it's both.
I'll challenge you on that one. It needs to be replaced by one thing. Do the right thing.
Oh, yeah.
That's it. That's
hard.
all you need to say.
Yeah.
If I'm holding on, let's say I have this machine and it has everybody's patient data on it. As a human, as an ethical, moral human being, I have a job to protect this to the best of my ability or my company's ability. I don't have to be told. I shouldn't have to be instructed. I should be given the tools and given the capability to do this. I shouldn't have to be told by GDPR, NIST, PCI, SOC, HIPAA, the 20 or 30 compliance, which is absolute bullshit. It's replaced by the same thing as the golden rule. How do you be a good human? Golden rule. Don't need to get into religion. Don't need to get into philosophy. Treat others as you want to be treated. End of conversation. Stop fucking complicating it.
Yep. Love it. Love the passion on that one too.
While I agree, we have a problem with people not having ethics.
Totally. Take them out, tar and feather and taser them, put it up on YouTube. It'll be a fun channel.
I like it.
Bring out Mr. Chippy.
Yes. What was the
Into the
what
wood
was that movie? What was
Rumble
the
in the Bronx? Wasn't it Rumble in the Bronx where he takes a guy and that's a Jackie Chan movie from like the
was that the there was that one, but there was a newer one. It was a fantastic one. It was the two guys that had bought this little place in the woods, and the students came in, and it's a parody one. It's almost like Shaun of the Dead, but it was a parody one. I can't remember what the damn thing was called. It was freaking fantastic. Dale and Tucker. Tucker and Dale.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen that one.
You've got to see that. It's absolutely freaking hilarious. So,
all right, I'll add it to my list. Dale and Tucker. For our listeners who want to follow your work or reach out, what's the best way to do that?
LinkedIn, always the best. Easiest and simplest way. Good old LinkedIn. I'm fairly easy. Was it Psydragon one, I think, on LinkedIn? Yeah, that's easiest, simplest place to find me.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Right. And where are we going to see you in the next, 6 months or so? Where can someone find you?
Without being too blunt about it, the organization that I work with and work for is not very supportive of my activities outside of anything that's corporate. And even then, they're kind of not overly supportive of it. So I think I am going to Black Hat, and so I'll stick my head into DEF CON as well. Obviously, GERCON. And as far as I'm aware, that's all I'm doing the rest of this year. I don't have anything else planned because, I pay enough out of pocket as it is. I don't want to have to spend even more out of pocket at the moment. So, yeah, it's a bit of a challenge.
All right.
Totally understand that.
Yeah.
Most people don't realize that
Yeah.
We don't get paid to go speak at the conferences.
Yeah.
We're usually paying out of pocket for that.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Although I am going to Barcelona. I got to mention Barcelona wants me to go talk, and they're actually going to pay, which is rather nice.
Ooh,
But
nice.
yeah, I don't know what they're going to pay. I think they'll just cover travel and expenses, which I can't complain too much about at all. But that saves me paying for the dance stuff. But yeah, so that'll be fun. But no, I think it'll be, you know, DEF CON, Black Hat, and then GERCON, obviously, which is the home.
Awesome. All right. Well, that's a wrap on this episode of Criticality Live. Huge thanks to our guest, Chris Roberts, and an even bigger thanks to you for hanging out with us and being a part of our growing community of leaders who are done with the buzzwords and are ready for real conversations. If you got value out of today's episode, follow us and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Drop us a review here on LinkedIn, Spotify, or on our on-demand YouTube channel. And of course, a big shout out to our sponsor, Secure Nation, for powering our conversation today. They're helping organizations defend smarter, respond faster, and make cybersecurity something that actually works. This has been Criticality Live, where we cut through the noise and get to what really matters. See you next week. Thank you.